Good morning, everyone. Yeah. So first, I think, April already acknowledged it, but it does feel a little bit heavy to be together, but it also feels like a really strong privilege to be together. So I just want to thank everybody and thank April for creating this community and space. What we're talking about right now is why social good matters. I'm very humbled to be sharing a stage with Mary Alice and ERIN. Full disclosure, I've been working with ERIN for about a year, volunteering my skills for the Chamber of Mothers. But it's been such a pleasure getting to know Mary Alice and learning about Glam for Good. So what we're going to do is talk about these two women who are incredibly accomplished, have done so much with their careers, and have dedicated their lives to service. Thank you. And thinking about how they've sacrificed so much, how they're experts, they're accomplished, they're doing so much for these two causes that mean so much to them, that are solving some really major problems in society. So we're going to talk about who they are, why they started their organizations, why they want to work with brands, and why brand partnerships are really important in sponsorship. And you're all going to be inspired. You're all going to hear the stories and think, wow, someone's tackling that challenge. I want us to be inspired, and I want all of us as creatives and consultants, strategists, to think, which of my clients can benefit from working with them? How can I bring more brand partnerships, more actions, more partnerships, more collaborations? This isn't just about inspiration, it's based on action. There's also a sheet of paper in all of your gift bags that talk about what does Chamber of Mothers need, what does Glam for Good need. If you'd like to be compelled to donate, both are accepting that. But also please get in touch with these very accomplished women to do something more. So with that, I'd like to introduce Mary Alice Stevenson. She's the Executive Director and Founder.
There's a lot of familiar faces here in this audience.
A lot of familiar faces. So I'm just going to read both of your bios so I don't get it wrong. So Mary Alice, she is a very well-known fashion beauty expert, humanitarian, founder of Glam for Good. Glam for Good does pop-up shops and provides 35 million units of clothing and personal hygiene for those in need. She's worked with Mrs. Obama, the Oprah magazine, and many others, and really addresses this oversupply of product, getting into the hands of those who need, especially after humanitarian crises. So Mary Alice, tell us more about you, when you started this, and why you're so happy today.
Well, thank you, Molly. Hi, I have been in the fashion and beauty business, as Molly said, for over 25 years. And at the same time, I was doing a lot of work with nonprofits across the country. And really, I believe that access to adequate, clean clothing and personal care essentials is a human right. It empowers opportunity, it empowers dignity, and has social, economic, and health benefits. And I started seeing all this excess. Two major issues in this work that I was doing as a fashion director. I was with the fashion and beauty brands, and these brands have just a crazy surplus of inventory. Any of you that have been in the industry understand this. And most of this inventory, when it's run out of, when it's time to become dead stock, these brands don't know what to do with it because they don't want to put it back out in the marketplace. It will devalue their brand. So they have it sit in a warehouse. They disintegrate it. The EPA gave an estimate, and this is mind-boggling, that 13 million clothing and footwear is generated in a year, 13 million tons, that is, in a year in the United States, and 11 million tons of it goes into landfills and incinerators. It's staggering, the excess that we have. At the same time, after all the work I was doing at different nonprofits in the trenches, I saw this crazy need right here in our own backyard. The US Census recently announced that 37 million Americans are living in poverty. 39% of Americans can't afford basic necessities like underwear, socks, clothing for their kids, clothing for work, clothing for school. Deodorant, feminine hygiene products, shampoo. There is a lot of poverty in our own backyard. And although I've been doing a lot of work outside the country, I started focusing right here in America. That's a family of four living in New York City on a household income of $25,000 a year. That's just not doable. And so Glam for Good really has evolved into this micro bridge. Hopefully one day we'll get bigger and stronger as we grow. Micro bridge to kind of take all this excess and attach it to need. Glam for Good repurposes unused merchandise to address clothing and personal care insecurity in America, to empower dignity and opportunity. Glam for Good gives merchandise around 4 impact pillars. I'm trying to go fast.
You're doing good. You're doing good.
Child and family welfare, mental health and well-being, disaster recovery, and sorry, let me start over again. Just get disaster recovery, mental health and well-being, family and child welfare, and social equality. We do this in 4 ways. We pop up across the country, very Instagram friendly. Many of you have been to these pop-up shops. These are called #ShopandSpree for Freeze, and they're all over Instagram. We pop up in schools, homeless shelters, domestic violence shelters, natural disaster zones. And we pop up shops using the excess from some of the world's biggest brands to give away for free. We also give accessories, eyewear, and eye care, and self-care. We've popped up in 31 states across the United States since our inception. In 2016, we became a 501c3 after we were a grassroots movement. Melissa, Goldie, April, so many of you have Adam, so many of you have helped. Glam for Good. Literally, it was me asking, we're going to go work with veterans. We're going to go work with breast cancer survivors. We're going to pop up after a hurricane. We're going to pop up after a fire, and literally putting out on my social media that we need product and we need support. Now, 8 years later, we have given over $35 million in new clothing and personal care across the country, and that's wholesale. I could go on and on, so I don't think my microphone's working either.
Well, and I think that's a good transition. ERIN is also kind of taking her values of work and again work with connections to see a problem, not just get angry about it, but put that into action. Mary Alice, something we very much done. So ERIN, if you could tell us about who you are, your background, why you felt so compelled to co-found Choose Your Mothers, and the mission that we're doing. And then again, what we're going to talk about is brand partnerships. Good, bad, ugly, real time.
Awesome. Yeah, can you guys hear me? Am I good? Yeah, so I'm an attorney. I've worked in tech. I've worked at WME and entertainment. But there has always been a social impact to everywhere I've worked. I've felt really called to be of service, and I think it's the way my family's just been for generations. But I was just saying to Summer, we were in conversation, I truly feel that the Chamber of Mothers is the work of my life. I look back at everything I've done, and I see it all leading to this. So the way this came about is, if you can not have PTSD and imagine the end of 2020 and how mothers were really the social safety net for this country. And it's funny, April, I was realizing that's how we connected. We were both in an LA Times article about the mental health of mothers in America. And basically we're like, it's terrible. It sucks. We're struggling. And so at the beginning, actually really it was the end of 2021, as part of Build Back Better, it looked like we were very close to getting paid family and medical leave for the first time in America. America is the only of its peer nations that does not provide paid family and medical leave. And 1 out of every 4 moms goes back to work at 2 weeks postpartum. And so there were a lot of advocacy groups that there were Paid Leave US, Paid Leave for All, Moms Rising. They're all sort of DC-based advocacy groups that have been working at this, carrying across generations. Everything that Ai-jen Poo is doing is incredible. They've been working at this problem for 10, 20 years. But they realized in November of 2021, right before there was a vote on paid family and medical leave, that they were not reaching the everyday consumer mother at all. And most moms across the country had no idea that Build Back Better had anything to do with infrastructure that had something to do with anything but bridges. You know, there was care infrastructure, there was childcare, paid leave that we were really close to getting. And so these advocacy groups reached out to folks like me. I run a platform for mothers called Totem Women, and there were myself and 7 other moms who they're authors, journalists, mental health practitioners and OBGYNs who also have platforms that were reaching consumer mothers. And these groups said, can you jump on and do an Instagram Live, or can you spread the word about what's happening? And we were only too happy to do so. But there was also a moment where one of my co-founders, who is this badass litigator for maternal rights in San Diego, said, you know, what most people don't realize is that the Chamber of Commerce is the #1 blocker of paid family and medical leave. They have it on their jobs killer list. Where's the Chamber of Mothers? Why are lawmakers not afraid of the 85 million mothers with 2.4 trillion or more in spending power who make 80% of the household spending decisions? Why are they not afraid? I mean, all of these laws, and then you look the next year to come, I mean, Dodd happened. We didn't get paid family and medical leave. And so I'm proud to say that our organization, we put together a post on Instagram. I actually tapped Anita to see what she thought of the imagery. But in 2 days, we had 10,000 followers. We were picked up in Self and Parents and even Jezebel. And everyone's asking, like, who is this Chamber of Mothers? And in the day that we launched, the advocacy orgs that have been at this for so long got more individual funding than they had any other day, where moms were just contributing to them. So we realized this is much more than a social media moment. We formed a 501c3. We did our research around, like, how should we organize this? We formed a 501c3. I stepped in as the executive director because I've been an executive director before and I can use my legal background to help. And I'm proud to say that we've been invited to the White House twice, and you talked of your 4 things. We have our 3 things. So our 3 areas of focus are paid leave, affordable, accessible childcare, and improve maternal health outcomes. I'm sure many of you know that our maternal mortality rates in this country are abysmal, and they're increasing. We're the only one of our peer nations that has an increasing maternal mortality rate. And so these are the 3 areas that we fight for, and they're all interconnected. You don't have healthy American moms when you have 1 in every 4 heading back 2 weeks postpartum. And the 3 ways that we do this are federal advocacy. So it's been every other month we're in DC meeting with bicameral members of Congress, so representatives and senators, and bipartisan work. I mean, many of us are very progressive inside the group, but we have learned, literally our law firm that reps us pro bono had a slide last time we were in DC that said, how to speak Republican. And so we learned not to use the word equitable in meetings. We started calling it the E word, okay? So, yeah. So we do federal advocacy. We do grassroots advocacy with our local chapters. We really tested that as a thesis at the beginning of last year. We said, we really think we need to mobilize moms across the country who are fed up and fired up and want to make change. And that worked. And so that's what we're expanding. So federal advocacy, local chapter advocacy in moms' hometowns, and then creative content. Our team is badass at putting together messaging that really moves moms. And one of the first messages that we put out, our advocacy groups were like, okay, we need the Chamber of Mothers to go out and say that 4 weeks postpartum, 4 weeks paid leave would be amazing. You have to go say this is a good thing. And I remember that FMLA, which is the free, the unpaid leave that moms get, is 12 weeks. And that happened not for any good reasons, not supported by data, but it was a placeholder that became precedent. So our first campaign was, we won't build back bleeding, because anybody who's given birth knows that you're bleeding for 6 weeks. So we put that campaign out. Another one was Congress, hey Congress, moms brought you into this world and we can vote you out. And that's a little bit of like the Southern coming out in me. So yeah, we have great content and that really moves moms into action. So that's what we're doing.
And that's a lot.
Yeah, a little bit.
These 2 women are doing it for the cause. They are both very accomplished. They could also be sitting amongst us doing big consulting, big companies, and they're choosing this work of service. And it takes a lot of work. There's a lot of people who are contributing to doing all of these things. There's the pop-ups or the content or just getting the word out, which is why working with companies, working with brands, it's really important to continue to fuel the mission. And it's one of those things that I think many of us felt compelled about charity, nonprofit, philanthropy. It's good business. If we look at what the stats that ERIN was just sharing about how women control purchasing power, $1.2 billion year, and also the good move that we've seen with women in business this year, whether it's women's sports, Barbie and Greta, Beyonce and Taylor. Women, when compelled, and when they feel that they're being spoken to, they can really drive the economy. So, now we're going to turn and think about some of the brands that you worked with, whether it worked or not. I was personally insulted to hear and felt guilty. I worked at brands and worked with charity partners saying, well, can you only do it for an insulting amount? So, Mary Alice, maybe that's setting you up for one of the stories you told me.
Well, I'm not going to say the brand.
Where this takes time and money, and women's work has value. How can we all be thinking about that?
I'm not going to say names, but I will briefly mention something that didn't work. A big box retailer that we all know and shop in wanted to donate $10,000 for us to pop up an event. Our events are large scale, usually 100 to 500 recipients. They're custom created and vetted. Wanted us to pop up a large scale event to empower mental health workers, to find the location, do all the content, bring our board, our influencers for $10,000. And I've learned to say no, even though I want to help everybody that reaches out and I want to partner with everybody. Usually that's just my spirit, but I've learned to say no. One brand partnership, well, two I'll mention that have really been incredible for us is a partnership that we formed that is a multi-year partnership with H&M. And we've literally shut down H&M flagship stores in Detroit, New York, Chicago, and for a short amount of time been able to bring in vetted recipients from multiple nonprofits in that city to come and shop for back to school needs. H&M wants to impact. What? Oh, that's okay. Should I just turn it off? No, it's recording it too. To empower youth, and it's been a win-win where you've got employee activism. Glam for Good is a verb; it's an actionable. You can see it. I want you all to go on Glam for Good on Instagram, and you'll see it with your own eyes. And so, working with H&M in these cities, we've been able to get their employees active. They're with the recipients that we've vetted. We'll clear old merchandise out. As the season's ending, new stuff is coming in, and it helps them utilize the excess in an impactful way. And also content that's created around these live impact events is incredible for social, and for these brands all have influencers, and the influencers want to do good. Another example of a partnership that's been really successful for us is a partnership with Ulta Beauty. Before, we would get literally a PR person saying, we have a palette for you. We don't know what's in it. It's coming to the warehouse space, and 3 18-wheelers would show up. And I kid you not, this has happened. And Melissa, who's been on our founding board member, is a founding board member, Melissa Goldie. Nowadays, we actually are in-kind donor partners, whether self-care or clothing, pay a monetary donation with Ulta Beauty. We've a multi-year partnership with them, so they do quarterly drops of their excess product. We give it out throughout the year, and then we give them the impact reporting that they need for their corporate social responsibility reports. So there's been multiple great, and I just want to say that I think there are sacrifices in everything that we all do. We've made sacrifices just as humans, but I do think it's an honor to do what we're doing, and probably the biggest learning safari of both Erin and my life that it is challenging, but I know all of you have had so many challenges too, and this is a great opportunity to be here to ask for any guidance from any of you. And we are hiring.
You want a good brand story, a bad brand story? Is that the question?
I mean, whichever.
I'll say this. We got a lot of support from a brand. Again, also won't name names, but we started out this past year and really, as I said, wanted to take a bet on our theory of change around local chapters, where our moms, we've grown to a community of over 60,000 followers. We reach 4 million moms a month. When we all speak together, we reach 20 million moms a month. So we have this army of moms. And there are a lot of brands interested in reaching that consumer mom, right? But we've also had the experience of, really small commitments. And the one that worked out really well was we went to a specific brand and said, hey, we're rolling out our local chapters. We want to be in 15 different states. Can you fund that? And they did. And they got their brand on it, and it was really positive, and it helped us. We got a lot more than just the dollars and cents. They spent $50,000, but for us, we were piloting our theory of change. And so that was greatly helpful. And we know that we need to now be in all 50 states by the end of 2025. But we have also seen a number of brands, and I think I want to have this conversation with all of you because I think it's an important one. It's something that Mary Alice and I bonded over when we were prepping. But something that's happening right now is that brands are spending a lot of money getting social impact consulting. And some of my closest friends do that for major agencies, and they make a lot of money. There are nonprofits out there doing the work right now, and if only they would link arms with us and put their trust in other women and put their resourcing in other women to go and do this work and say, hey, I see what you're doing, Glam for Good. I see what you're doing, Chamber Mothers. Thank you. What kind of resourcing do you need to accomplish your goals? We are more than happy to lend our imprimatur, to, put our logo on what you're doing. We will sing it from the rooftops on social and on our newsletter and all of that. But we actually had one brand who, after a successful campaign with us, they were really impressed by what we did. Their co-founder had moved to DC, and she got excited about doing advocacy work. But they sell a product, okay? So they need to stay focused on their core competence and do that well. Well, they got excited about what we're doing. They said, we want to get on a Zoom. We want all of the founders on a Zoom. We're have our two co-founders, and they just asked us a bunch of questions, really kind of interrogated us, and we, in good faith, answered them, only to have them build out their own social impact structure that copies a lot of what we're doing. But what's unfortunate to me, I mean, the IP attorney in me always, of course, just hates that. But what bothered me most was that they will peter out because it's not their core competence. We will not. I will not stop doing this, nor will our team. And we've built this diverse team and this army of moms across the country. Brands really have the opportunity to have conversations with some nonprofit organization leaders like us and to say, sure, we're happy to be questioned, right? I am happy. I've been in startup pitches for a lot of my life. Ask me all the questions, but then put the trust in our team to go do the work and give us the resourcing to do it versus recreating the wheel and frankly stealing plans.
So I think those were the things that I really wanted to get out to this group today, and really everybody start thinking, what can we be doing? These are two nonprofits that have spoken to you. I'm sure you feel compelled by at least one of the things that these two accomplishments have talked about. And how can we take this and actually put, as Erin mentioned, there's people who do this. There's social impact consultants, ESG people. How can we all add that to our LinkedIns, to our remit, to our scope, to say, I actually have personal relationships with two nonprofit founders who are badasses, who've done it. I've seen them in action. And now I'd like to partner this product launch campaign by supporting Chamber of Mothers in this way. I'd like to do a celebration of an event with Glam for Good to help reach more people. So I guess maybe we open it up, unless there's anything else you two rock stars would like to share.
I'd love to answer questions. Yeah. And we'd love you guys to follow Chamber of Mothers and Glam for Good on Instagram.
100%. Yes.
And there's also a page in your bags that we would just love it if you guys could fill it out with your information so that we can put you on our mailing lists, reach out. If there's you want to get involved in either of the organizations, and you can give it to April or Danielle.
Daniela is going to take the sheets of paper for it. She's volunteered. So it's information, or you can take it with you. On the back of the QR code is to donate to the website. But we will all be here, happy to talk on behalf and make sure you get some time with them.
I think we really want your wisdom too. Any advice, any ways to participate, any ways we could hire you, have you a part of our team to help us scale. is really what we're looking for.
Yeah, and on our end, I'll be frank, it's resourcing. We need funding. We are a 100% volunteer-led organization. We pay some contractors here and there, but every one of us is a mom who keeps side paid work to keep this going, but there are several of us that want to do this full time, and we all talk about the value of women's work and knowing our worth and all of it, and I'm really seeing how we have to really step up to the plate and say, I see your value, I want to contribute in this specific way, and I want to resource you up to keep going. We have really specific targets where we want to be the biggest movement of mothers in this country and create real change around those 3 areas. And we have the opportunity to do that. So to get us out to, having 10 million moms that we reach and 35,000 members that are active members of the chamber, being in all 50 states, we have clear goals, an amazing team, and the other thing I'll say, last thing about the brand opportunity is there are a couple different nonprofits that I've spoken to. Shannon Watts has become a friend. And when I talked to her about how she grew Mom's Demand, she saw that within 6 months, they weren't going to sustain from a resourcing standpoint. She looked at Michael Bloomberg having a PR problem. In the city of New York, there were too many guns. And so they co-founded Everytown, which really funded Mom's Demand. We are speaking to a pharmaceutical company that created a postpartum depression pill because when one of our journalists, who's a founder, she really scooped the story from the New York Times, actually, and wrote about the postpartum depression pill. We shared about it. We got so many hateful comments where moms were saying, oh, great, just throw a pill at the problem. Where's the systemic change? And a lot of my co-founders were ticked off and just said, how dare they? We're volunteering, we're going to DC on our own dimes and all this. I stood back and said, wait a second. This company has a PR problem. They can give us $5 million and then suddenly we're in all 50 states and they can say, here's the pill that's going to save a mom who has postpartum psychosis from taking her life, and we are working with the Chamber of Mothers to create systemic change because both are needed. So I just want to share that with you because I know a lot of you are working with brands, and I think there's a real opportunity also from a strategic perspective that we're going to take that and create change, but there's a strategy to be thought about there too.
I can talk a little bit about Mary Alice a little bit because I've done a lot of work with her on the brand side, and one of the things that I think is really important is going in there and seeing the work. I was fortunate enough to do a bunch of work with her when I was at College Line, and it's, a lot of times when you're in these big corporations, you're we're going to get money to save the children, we're going to get money to this, but you don't really know where your money is going, right? You don't see it in action, and you don't see it touching other people's lives. And the best part of the experience for me when I worked with Mary Alice in the past is the experience of seeing and touch others' lives, right? And it's such a gift to not only either the children, the adults. I've done a couple of different things, but it's such a gift to yourself and bringing your teams there, what it does to the culture within your organization, that hands-on work. It really makes it real and really does something amazing. So I would advocate for anybody here to go and volunteer first, really get a sense of what you're sort of, offering to your brand, because once you feel it and see it, nothing, I have left so many of those events just bawling, I can tell you stories about being in the Metropolitan Museum, with some of these amazing women, girls.
We pop up and this summer we did 11 gives. We gave away about 100,000 in product on each of the 11 gives across actually Washington D.C., Chicago, Connecticut, New York. And for us, support means we can take in more and do more. Warehousing is expensive, shipping is expensive, and so the more support we get, the more we could have quadrupled that. And in New York City, there's over 100,000 kids unhoused in the public school system, right? It's everywhere, and so it just seems like it's actually so simple. Take what brands don't want and use it to help people.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about how you're both resourced, where your operating budget is coming from? Is it pure donations? Is it grant work? Can you give a little bit about what the revenue model is?
I mean, we just received our first major capacity grant, 7-figure capacity grant. For a while, like ERIN, it was all volunteers. Basically, every friend was on the board. And if I didn't, if you weren't on the board, you were coming to help in some way. And the kids, family affair in all ways. And we started actually crowd rising, and we were able to raise money through crowd rising, which was really through initially our Instagram, any friends of mine, me. And then as we grew and became an official 501c3 in 2016, mostly high net worth individuals, donors that are actually seeing what we're doing. You can see it on Instagram. You can see it everywhere if you Google it, and coming to our events and started donating. Something that we did as an MPO, which I think is also something that big brands don't really realize, there's a huge amount of legwork, and starting to do yearly audits when we first started was huge for us because we were full transparency. Our first 990 was like, we raised like, 20K or something like that. It was like, and no one got paid, right? Our 990 now in 2024 will be, over $1 million in operating budget. And so we are able to pay our employees now after not having been able to pay. And mostly it's brands, our partnership, it's point of purchase. So like H&M or Ulta Beauty, they raise at the counter, but also some foundations, family foundations, and granting.
Yeah, it's early days for us. We formed the 501c3 in April of 2020. We run about 100K budget right now. We want to be at 250 by the end of this year. We really need to get to that point and pay staff before you can get a big grant. And that's the whole cart before the horse thing, right? Because it's expensive to do the audits and to pay staff and all of it. But it's been a similar mix. We've got some really nice brand commitments. We have done a lot. We brought help in for fundraising to do without a crowdfunding platform, we did it on our own. We came up with this Mother Council, and we raised for that around Mother's Day. So we have around 3K a month that comes in that's repeated donors from moms who care. We've had some high net worth individuals who have committed funding to us, but around the 5K, 10K mark. But we're early days, but we have a big vision. And so we're, of course, speaking with people like Pivotal and the Ford Foundation and smaller grants, but it's a mix of individual and brands and grant writing.
How do you guys reframe your value prop for B2B companies that don't have a big consumer presence, like the McKinsey's or the sales?
That's a great question. We have a really strong, I think, B2B offer, which is because of, again, the founding team that I'm so proud of. They're just so bright. And so we have Lauren Smith Brody, she's a consulting practice called The Fifth Trimester. She literally wrote the book, The Fifth Trimester, wrote the book on going back to work after baby, and was at Glamour before that. And so we can send her in to do white papers. So she right now is working with Vivi, with the childcare company, doing a massive white paper on the state of care, the state of childcare. And so we can provide that to a business. We can offer consulting. We can offer social impact work. I mean, there are companies that have said, there was a diaper company that said, we're perceived as elitist because we kind of are. Our diapers are expensive, so help us. And so we talked to them about a social impact campaign. It turned out they just wanted a tagline that we came up with, so they gave us just an amount of money to take our tagline. But there are a lot of different ways. We have a whole brand services menu, too, that we're happy to share. That's everything from start with a donation and just, like I said at the beginning, trust us to do the work. And then you get to say you're doing all this awesome work for moms and be a part of our impact report. But we can also do things like white papers and consulting.
Awesome. Any other questions?
Is there a minimum, just for small brands, small businesses who want to start? Is that even we do for other?
I mean, Lalinia just donated, probably 5,000 dresses. And, I didn't ask them they just said, we want to give this to you. We didn't ask for a donation. A lot of times we'll take people's in-kind donations for free and we'll process it and we'll give it away. And it's just win-win. It really depends. It's each experience we custom create and we work together with whoever wants to give. And the larger brands, though, we really are careful not to be taking taken advantage of because we have been for so many years. I mean, what
Yeah,
about you?
we have a 5K minimum because our team puts in so much work. We've just been burned by brands who are like, let us get on your feed. And we have a lot of followers and a huge reach. And if we were to really price it, it would be 10K minimum to get on our feed. But so we have a 5K minimum.
Yeah, and we have membership levels that people come in on, and we can't really do an event for under $50,000, a $50,000 donation. But we have multiple smaller brands will come in with product or smaller donations to participate in the gives.
The other thing we've started doing, we had a lot of brands, especially developing brands, that wanted to do in kind. Our team would do so much, just even sharing about their brand. So we've turned that into a minimum guarantee. Like, we're happy to do in kind, but you have to commit at least 5K.
Amazing. I mean, we provide something that's real. It's real impact. It's not marketing. You know, it's not, it's real. And I think that a lot of times people try to figure out how they can work with us, but really we are nonprofits that provide impact. So at the end of the day, whether it's employee engagement, whether it's social good content, or whether it's reporting for CSR reports or board reports, it's, you know, good and social good that's happening live in both situations, and change. And hopefully the change will grow and grow for both of us. And I think both of us have really tried to focus on micro change and just, you know, keep in there and keep going and keep doing and helping and learning. So
Amazing.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Well, thank you, ladies.
Thank you for listening, everybody. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity.